morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar session today. It's good to see this level of engagement in AgriHub, and to me this shows that it is an important data asset in our industry that we need to continue evolving. And today we are here to do just that. The AgriHub board has generously invested in this data asset over the past 10 months, and this webinar we will show you how this will impact you. So we have a full agenda today. After a quick introduction of this project, I will hand over to Riza from Datalab, who will lay the foundations of why data warehousing is important. I will then give an overview of the project implementation, followed by Luan Reinek from Snowflake to highlight why and how Snowflake is a good solution for this type of project, and highlight some of the features that we will share with the industry to make using the AgriHub data seamless in your workflows. And then we will end off with a show and tell by the Datalab team on the work that was done. Firstly, just to establish the context for this webinar, in October last year, the AgriHub board put out a request for proposal asking vendors to propose a solution for an upgrade to the existing technology stack. So an RFP solicits bids from potential vendors or contractors, inviting them to submit a detailed proposal on how they would like to fulfill the project's needs. We had several very, very good and strong applications, and we decided on the Snowflake and Datalab solution, primarily based on the following criteria. So we had a look at, can the solution scale up and out as and when is needed? How easy is it to share data and create an endpoint for the industry to integrate with, to share the AgriHub data, and hopefully potentially further data sources in the pipeline of AgriHub. The tools need to develop over time, and it needs to manage itself. It needs to maintain, or it needs a low maintenance infrastructure, and AgriHub should own its own source code. I think that was the main decision criteria that the AgriHub board looked at. We decided on Snowflake specifically for the easy and secure sharing options, the diversity and scaling up and out in compute, and the fact that it remains a SQL-based platform with the option of diversifying in other languages. Let me introduce the project team. Riza, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. If you can maybe help me just see who we can mute, that would be great. Thank you. So the project team was led by myself and Brian. We were responsible for defining the data specifications, ensuring access to the existing data infrastructures in AgriHub, and we guided the team on industry-specific points during daily sessions with the Datalab team. I want to pause here just to acknowledge that this was an enormous time investment from Brian, who is the sole employee of AgriHub. He had his hands full with maintaining a stable environment in the old platform and building out this new environment with the project team. And I would like to thank him very specifically for his contributions and the sacrifices that he's made over the past few months. All of this would not have been possible without the help of the broader AgriHub support structures, and I would like to thank Mabel, Hayden, and John, who supported the old platform and ensured Brian has time to invest in the new platform. Allow me to also introduce the Datalab team, who will be showing some of the work that we've done today. Hester being the lead consultant, and she ensured that we maintain a strong cadence and remain on track with the project scope and budget. Camille is a data engineer that did the backend development and has been on support since April. She has also done most of the training that we have received in this project. Yonanda is the analytics engineer who did the data modeling and a lot of the BI work. And then I think all of this would not be possible without the broader Datalab team, who brought a wealth of experience as well. Specifically, Douglas Day, who was a chief architect that designed the solution, Riza, whom I will introduce in a moment, who was involved in the project initiation and the governance of the project, and Tawanda and David that helped with some of the data engineering and migration solves that we did. As you can see, this is a very strong project team with a wealth of knowledge and experience. What I enjoyed most about the project was combining industry use cases with technology solutions. in a forward-looking and a dynamic environment. I'm going to hand over here to Riza. Riza is co-owner and director at Datalab Solutions. Riza joined Datalab in 2015 with a background in industrial engineering and analytics engineering, and now focuses on the firm's growth and expansion. Thank you, Riza.
Awesome. Thanks, Eileen. I think we're right on schedule there. They say it takes a village to raise a child. So with all of the introductions that Eileen just did, it seems like it takes a village to build a data platform as well. Yeah, I'm super happy to chat to you today a little bit about Datalab, a short introduction. And I've called it from foundations to ROI because that is essentially what we focus on. So from starting to build the right data foundations all the way to measuring the return on investment. So Eileen, maybe just a thumbs up on whether you can see my screen, hear me. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I am going to start with telling a little story about the building blocks of a data platform today. I think this approach aligned to AgriHub's thinking and how other clients also think about data platforms. And I guess it just creates a common language that sets the tone and an understanding for the rest of the content to be shared in this webinar today. So in terms of an approach, we're all talking about data platform. This data is everywhere. In the case of AgriHub, it comes in the form of thousands and thousands of files every day. But most of you would also have operational databases with data, unstructured data in the form of reports or images, or even textual type of data for reviews. The data is kind of sitting everywhere in many different formats. And then on the other end, we've got the user. Users could be people, it could be executives, it could be an operational team in a factory, it could be down the line applications or even clients or suppliers that you're sharing data with. And so our approach is around like bridging the gap that you can currently see on the screen. So the first step towards that is really understanding those users, understanding their business processes and understanding what format they need data in, and kind of aligning that format that they needed into the user and the outcomes that they're trying to produce. So when I'm talking about a data format, I'm talking about different users needing different formats of data at different times. So an analyst might need access to long historical data sets to produce forecasts, or we might need notifications for our factory workers to say, you know, this operation is falling behind, or we might need a chatbot to talk to and ask specific questions about our data. So our platform needs to be able to deliver this data in different ways. We might need to be able to share data via an API with a partner or a supplier. And so the first step towards that is really putting all of this data into what we call a data warehouse. It's a common landing area for all of your data, all of your historical data, cleaned and conformed and structured into a sensible schema. But putting data into a database adds no value to the end user. It still requires a technical user to extract that data and do something with it. And so the next step towards getting closer to that format is creating an analytical model. It can also sometimes be referred to as a semantic model. And why this is important, it creates that single source of truth for users to access the data. It is the home of our business rules and our calculations. It makes sure that when people talk about sales, everyone is referring to the same number. And this is kind of the first step towards that format. What we do emphasize is the self-service analytics feedback loop. Because you cannot build this whole infrastructure on day one, it's important to continuously keep on getting requirements from your users and bringing them back into this governed data set. So what that means is a smart data analyst may have found a different data set, they brought things together, they've created some new calculations, but now they're the only ones that can use it. And so we want to make sure that that continuously gets fed back into this data warehouse, back into the model, and available to all users. Streaming data is a process of continuously integrating real-time data that is important in some scenarios, but not all, and is also a crucial capability of the data platform should you have really time-sensitive data. Think about scenarios where financial services companies need to respond to potential fraudulent transactions. That needs to happen really quickly. And then finally, we have the data science and AI layer. So Snowflake has coined the phrase, there's no data strategy or there's no AI strategy without a data strategy. And this we also align 100% to. Without clean, structured, organized, good quality data, you can never get to machine learning and AI models. And so that's our approach to data platform. This is what we do as an organization. We're the builders of these type of platforms for our clients. So just a quick then recap on how that translates to our day-to-day work that we do. We do data strategy and cloud architecture. So making sure that our clients have a data strategy and that strategy is aligned to business objectives and putting the technology that support that together well. We do data engineering, which is the automated integration and transformation of data. We do data analytics and exploitation. So we don't necessarily call it dashboards and reports, which is one delivery mechanism, but our goal is really to make sure that the right data in the right format is available at the right time to the right user. AI and ML solutions, so robust and pragmatic advanced analytics implementation. Data monetization, I think this is essentially where the AgriHub platform comes in. So creating some economic value from data, not necessarily in a revenue generation way, but in a data collaboration effort within an industry that creates positive outcomes for multiple users. And then finally, capability development. So it's important for us to equip teams with skills and knowledge. And therefore, when we work with a client, there's continuous onboarding throughout the process, but we also engage in structured learning through AI labs and all kinds of different things that you'll find if you follow Datalab on LinkedIn. Then a final kind of note from my side is you're going to see some like technology brands that Yulene might present. Some of you might find them familiar, others might not. But we work closely with technology partners to really fuel an active and engaged ecosystem. And we focus on like choosing the best breed of technologies to let us do our best work and to help our clients succeed. It is not by chance that we've chosen these technologies. We really do believe that they are best of breed. And so as a data consultancy, we understand this critical role of technology in driving quality and timely solutions for our clients. And we feel that we leverage the strengths of the technologies to enhance our services to clients and deliver optimal results. I think these tools all offer different strengths and better support and support a range of different use cases and budgets. And having a whole stack of tools in our tool chest allows us to make the best recommendations for our clients. And so as I hand over to Yelene now, hopefully, some of these things will start coming together in an actual implementation. And I hope the context was useful.
Thank you, Risa. Can you see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up. Thank you. All right. Quick introduction of Datalab and what they do and how they do things. I'll take you through the project, where we started, and then we'll move over more towards where we are now with Luan and Camille. Right, so when we started with this project, I'll give you just the synopsis and the scenario that we faced. AgriHub receives between 6,000 and 12,000 electronic transmission files in a day. And as most of you would know, each of these EDI files consists between 20 and 15,000 rows, depending on what type of EDI file it is, with over 200 fields in some of them. So it's really a large amount of data if we receive volume of it, and it's not well structured for a data warehouse environment. In the past, we used Talent as an extraction, transformation, and loading tool, and then MySQL as our storage. And I think the way that the data has been stored over the years made the traceability within AgriHub difficult to follow one pallet throughout its life period. And then also a skill capacity restriction that we face is that we have one person in the company with an outdating infrastructure that needs to evolve over time. So the main pain points were slow to respond database queries. We experienced loads and loads of table locks. Just in layman's terms, if you do one thing to a database table, you can't do another thing as well. And that caused some restrictions in our capacity and our time available on the data. It's obviously a big administrative burden if you can't pool all the data and do things in the same time. So there's been a big administrative burden on the team, and just it became quite difficult to share our data with projects, industry projects, and industry stakeholders in a more electronic way than is needed. So that was the current infrastructure that we experienced problems with, and why the AgriHub board decided to invest in a new infrastructure. These are the technologies that we use. They're very good technologies, but some of them have become end of line in their support function for their open source capabilities. And so with that in mind, we needed to find solutions that evolve itself over time, that we invest and we don't have to maintain the upkeep of it internally. So in short, just to summarize it in a graph, we've got this whole infrastructure made up of many different pieces, and we've got Brian maintaining and upholding the whole infrastructure, which became quite a bit of a burden on one human. Maybe something nice before we delve into the technical things. This graph just shows the number of records that we have been able to process since implementing the new platform. So everything from here to here, so up until September last year is what we could process in our old environment, in the MySQL environment. And then everything from September onwards is that we've been able to open up the AgriHub processes to process all different types of records and not just the OK record. So in the past, we could only process a specific type of palette file, so an OK record, and then the mates. And now we can really process a lot more, and we haven't even scratched the bottom of its capability. So what I'm trying to say, to summarize, AgriHub is open and ready to bring on new data sets and throw more data at it as necessary. Just very interesting, you can see how the volume increases here in April and May for the citrus season that's onboarding. All right, so the launch roadmap, when can you start seeing things? We've already opened for the alpha users. So the alpha users are basically our associations. We're in the process of testing with a few beta users. More on that in a moment. The webinar is today, which shows just what we've done and how to get access and what you can expect. And it's also a prompt for you to know that the data that you normally pull into your infrastructure is going to change a little bit. The headings will change a little bit, the way you get it will change, and it's an advanced prompt, a month and a half, to let you know that things are changing. And then on 1 September, we're opening it up for general access, and then hopefully on the 15th of September, we stop with our Jasper reporting, which just means that we're hoping to go over onto the new platform entirely in September. Right. Some background on some of the testing that we've done, just to make sure that we align these two data sets. You can imagine running two different processes in parallel, each doing things in its own way. We need to keep a fine eye on the volumes and the way that the data is processed. So over the past few months, we've been weekly updating our checks, where we compare the MySQL environment with the Snowflake environment, so the old system with the new system. And what I'm showing here is just an indication that on a vessel level, on a commodity level, on a week level, that these volumes are really conforming with maybe a 1 or 2% variance, which is expected. Something that Camille will touch on a bit later is this finalized flag that we brought into AgriHub. So because we receive not just OK records and we process a whole bunch of new file types, we had to find a way to confirm whether that pallet has actually left South Africa or not. And so we've got the finalized flag, which is basically says we have a confirmed sale date and a vessel for that pallet. Right. So this is the data testing that we've been doing, side-by-side analysis of the two systems over the past 2 months, 3 months. And now we've started onboarding our beta users. So in May, we started with the associations, with a weekly check-in with the associations, where they help us comb through the data, see where the gaps are, where mapping is necessary. And as of August, we've got 15 beta users looking at the data with us. Thank you very much to the beta users that have submitted queries and that have engaged in the platform. I think this phase is very important to secure our understanding of what is necessary to onboard the industry. And then in September, we'll have all the users onboarded. Right. Just a look at what's next after all of this is done. I think AgriHub is in the position where we need to appoint a technical resource to help Brian. So that's our big first next step. We are open to integrate more data sources to facilitate a broader view of the supply chain in South Africa and beyond if it's necessary. We can build on our analytical capabilities with projects like the Transnova Logistics Model or the Western Cape Department of Economic Development and Tourism. They've got a very nice project on port logistics that we can facilitate and help with. And then to expand the data that we can share with the industry. AgriHub is such a treasure trove of data, not just on the exports, but on a wider scale that we can start exposing as well with these new endpoints that we can create. My final note before I hand over to Luan is that if you know of someone that is a good fit and that would like the type of work that AgriHub is doing and that you will see Camille explaining in a little bit, please reach out to us or send out, Hester will post the link to this job profile in the chat. But we are looking for a very strong technical resource that can take over from the project team and stabilize the long-term solution. Right. I'm going to hand over to Luan. Luan is a country manager for Snowflake South Africa. and an AI and data platform leading specialist mobilizing the world's data. Luan has been with Snowflake for 3.5 years and has helped to drive growth and adoption across EMEA. Thank you, Luan.
Great, thanks, Jolene. Can you guys hear me okay? Loud and clear. Thanks so much for having me here, as well as our fantastic partners, Datalabs. Really appreciate the opportunity. I am conscious of time. There's a lot that I'd like to share with you guys. I am going to keep it concise, going to keep it high level, and if there's any sort of further information and detail that you guys do require, please do reach out to Ariza and the Datalabs teams. They can most certainly assist. Whilst I fire up the presentation, if you give me a second. Let me know if you can see this. You able to see?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Sorry, my screen went awry. So maybe just a little bit about Snowflake before we jump in on the tech side, and I guess more specifically and related to logistics, sort of farming, supply chain, etc. A little bit about us. So we've been around for 12 years now. We're a publicly listed company. We've got over 12,000 customers globally, hundreds of customers in South Africa, and that ranges across a wide spectrum of industry and organization, from sort of your large retail banks and insurers to your fintechs to your more streamlined outfits that require real end-to-end data, AI, and analytic platform that can actually cater for everybody across all functions of the business, but meet you in terms of where you are within your size of your organization, and then sort of allow you to collaborate across industry and across vertical as well through our data sharing capabilities. In a nutshell, Snowflake is a single data platform that really allows you to sort of power your analytics journey and collaboration across a wide array of functions and what we call workloads in the data space. So we facilitate the ingestion of multiple sources of data. You can analyze, aggregate, play and amend with that data, transform it in Snowflake. Through the Snowflake Marketplace and Data Cloud, you can actually enrich that data either with third-party data, weather data, logistical, economic data, or even data sitting within your ecosystem, be it first or second-party data. And then, of course, you can share it out with the ability to share to your suppliers, your partners, and even the opportunity to monetize your data within the Snowflake Data Marketplace, which a lot of our customers actually are doing, because there's a lot of value, there's a lot of rich value in the data that organizations have. And again, this can actually be amalgamated with other data sets across industry vertical and your partners and suppliers to get a lot of value out of that. I'm not going to go into the architectural detail, but very much from a high level, again, it's one platform in which we can actually adopt multitude of architectural patterns depending what your business requirements are and needs, right? So again, data warehousing, data lakehouse, lake data mesh, so on and so forth, we can actually facilitate. And within the Snowflake platform, there's so much to offer. There's really just a plethora of tools, functionality, and features that really caters to any and all in the organization, and also where you are within your data analytics and AI journey. But really sort of summarizing that, and what that means is that, whether you're a data engineer, you're an end consumer of data analysis, you're a software engineer, you know a lot of SQL or Python, you're a data scientist, irrespective of where you are, Snowflake really does meet you, because we are a unified data platform that really facilitates end-to-end collaboration across the data estate within your organization. We provide a fully managed service. That really means that you as individuals, as business units, and ultimately as enterprises can actually focus on what you guys need to be doing as an organization, which is your expertise, and kind of leave the management and the security and governance of your data platform to Snowflake. And then, of course, the data collaboration and sharing, which I guess is, largely the ethos of today's call, is, something that, we're really expert in and work with a lot of organizations, across logistics, manufacturing, retail, finance, so on and so forth, where we actually have that collaboration going. And part of the problem why it's so important is that poor visibility across your organization and across, what you guys are doing is a force multiplier, right? So if you've got poor visibility of manufacturing or produce, that then compounds when there's challenges within the logistics, challenges within the supply chain, etc. So how do we get to a state wherein we can actually collaborate and have that visibility across our entire ecosystem and value chain within our organization? And that's kind of where Snowflake comes in, with the ability to manage and ingest multiple sources and types of data, which is absolutely critical. So there's a lot of structured data in our worlds, but especially when it comes to, manufacturing and logistics, there's a lot of semi-structured and even unstructured data, and you need a place to put all of that to be able to get that visibility. Traditionally, you would need to string together multiple tools and technology to really have a grasp and understanding of what the entire, what your data looks like across the entire value chain. But then in turn, reduces speed to insights, it increases overhead, so on and so forth, because you've just got so many systems and technologies to really manage. So when it comes to kind of the use cases, that are enhanced through data sharing and collaboration across the value chain, so obviously demand forecasting, that leads you purchasing, consumer insights, cycle time, so lead time, logistics capabilities, yield and quality of produce, and what's being delivered to the supplier, predictive maintenance, etc. So hopefully this is, and again, do appreciate the time and the limited time that we have, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of where and why collaboration across the data ecosystem, and specifically your data ecosystem, is so important. And if there's one of the takeaways, again, poor visibility is a force multiplier. So that is something really to consider when you just don't have visibility across the entire ecosystem, and you do need a technology that can actually support that functionality and that requirement within your organization, and equally that's going to meet you where you are within your technology and your skills maturity, right? So it's not just about a handful of people in the organization that manage and work with data, but we are all data stewards. We are all data and enablers of data. So it's important that everybody within the organization has the capability of interacting and asking new business questions of their data. Just a little bit more on some of the typical, challenges or solving the challenges and use cases they're using Snowflake. Again, these are all pretty familiar, I would think, to a lot of you on this call. And this is things that are done concurrently and in parallel to one another, right? So it's not a question of, let's take a look at planning, let's take a look at sourcing independently. No, this is run concurrently and simultaneously across the Snowflake platform to really provide you with those deeper, more meaningful insights on demand for when you do have those business questions, you can actually act accordingly. This is a very detailed slide, but I think a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight is, when it comes to things like AI, development, data governance and security, transformation, machine learning, so on and so forth. All of this is within Snowflake. So again, I think that's a really unique point within the Snowflake world, is that, again, you can come to the platform with your business requirements. And, it's one of the things that we do live by, and what our customers really do appreciate about our technology. That is, bring your business logic and questions to where your data lives and breathes. Don't take your data out of the environment to apply your business logic, right? Because that becomes very messy. You start creating data silos. So again, bring your business requirements and knowledge to where your data lives and breathes, and not the other way around. I think very quickly from a use case perspective, we have got absolutely hundreds of use cases ready to go and off the shelf that can be of great value and benefit to organizations. But maybe just, very typical, using AI and ML for demand forecasting, conversational BI. This is becoming really, really popular use case where, just as a citizen data scientist, so again, somebody that's really just working with data, but not necessarily technically skilled, you can actually go into Snowflake and in natural language, ask questions of your data using Snowflake Cortex features. So, kind of what are my expected yield for this, for this month or for this year? How am I logistics tracking over the last quarter, so on and so forth. That you can actually just type. You do not need to write code. You do not need to write SQL. You can actually just ask this, and actually it can come to you in whatever format you'd like. If you want it in a flat file or if you want it in a dashboard, so on and so forth. We can actually help produce those insights. I wanted to again, just conscious of the time, skip over a couple of others. From a logistics monitoring perspective, again, sort of overlaying logistical data and information from mapping, understanding, best route and route optimization is really, really important. Another thing, that I thought is really, really cool that a lot of our customers, specifically in the agricultural industry, are doing is that, with their drones and the imaging that they're taking, they're actually using AI, downloading those imaging and videos within Snowflake to actually start running models and asking really, really cool questions using that unstructured data, albeit photos or videos of the ports, of the farms, of so on and so forth, and actually using AI to get really, really smart, intelligent, and predictive insights by just flying their drone around the farm and taking a couple of photos. So I thought that's a really, really cool use case. Again, sort of coming back in sort of the sharing side of things, because we're globally interconnected, and the ability to share data within Snowflake is so easy. Again, there's a lot of value between yourselves, your first, second, and third party providers and suppliers, being able to share data and create a single view of your entire value chain. Happy to share these with Riza and the Data Labs team to further share with you guys should you want to dive a little bit deep into some of the use cases we do offer, and some of our customers are taking off the shelf. But with that, I think my time is up. So thank you very, very much for having me. And please don't hesitate to reach out to the Data Labs team if you guys have any questions and want to discuss anything further about Snowflake. And again, it's an absolute privilege to be working with Yolene and her team and the AgriHub team, and wonderful to see the transformation that's been happening there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luan. Right, so this is the exciting bit, and to show and tell some of the great work that we've been doing in this project. I'm going to hand over to Camille. Camille Hall is a senior data engineer at Datalab Solutions with a background in applied mathematics. Since joining the team in September 2022, she has delivered several projects in the agricultural sector, helping clients adopt and scale modern cloud-based solutions. Camille's strength lies in combining analytical rigor with hands-on technical experience and expertise to build solutions that drive real business value. Camille, thank you. Excited to see.
Great, thank you so much, Yolene, for that lovely introduction. I need to put this in present mode. Great. Thank you, Riza, Yolene, Luan. These are all really great introductions to actually getting into what we have done with AgriHub and its new data platform. So welcome to the introduction. By the end of the session, you know how to request access, locate some specific reports, and use Snowflake shares for your data needs. This is important for data accessibility, efficiency, and security. Our agenda for today, we'll be going through Reporting Hub and some common user stories, data integrity, looking at the master data management and a couple of the backend processes. I promise I will not bore you with too many of them. The new platform access, and the best part, how to get access and the process for that. So first up, we're looking at Reporting Hub and some common user stories. This is the landing page for Reporting Hub, the new reporting platform. Here you have access to 3 interactive dashboards and an export report. On the left, you'll see the drop-downs for the dashboards. First, there are the 3 interactive dashboards, and then there's a drop-down for the data export. Here we have a summary export where you can export data into an Excel, CSV, PDF. There's a few options. On the left, you will also find the glossary. This is some common terms that are used in the reporting. And now onto our first user story. So as a logistical stakeholder, I want visibility into the stock levels in the supply chain, broken down by age and category, so I can assess risk during windbound port conditions and plan bulk deliveries accordingly. For this user story, we'll be looking at the current stock report. On the left, you have a last refresh date and time, along with a list of filters to slice the report by. Additionally, there are 3 views of the stock data on the top. There is the age group, market, and reinspection report views. There are filters on the left so that while on the age group view, for example, you can still filter on market and reinspection items by using these filters. But let's look at an example. Let's select citrus as our commodity. Please note, we are still in the final phases of development, and a beta user has mentioned that the citrus stock numbers are a bit high. We are very aware and are implementing a solution. We actually aim to have this completed today. But back to the report. The subject of this visual shows that you can drill down from commodity group down to commodity and down to variety group. Simply click the drill down option and see citrus drilling down to the respective variety groups. The report also has cross-filtering enabled. This means if you select mandarins, for example, on the visual, then all the other visuals filter to only show data for mandarins. Another example is for navels, and the same can be done for the visual legends. Here, for example, I'm selecting the age group of 8 to 14. You can see that the data has filtered for all of the visuals on this age group. And that is our current stock report. Onto our next user story. As an exporter and grower association, I want to view historic fruit trends by specification and season week for each target region, so I can identify market opportunities. Here, we are using the weekly exports report. We're looking at grapes for the 2025 season and are analyzing growth trends by time and region. The top chart shows the current or the selected season, which is in orange, and throughout the report, you will see that the current season or your selected season will always be in orange versus the previous season, which will always be in green. And this is done by calendar year and week. The table below shows the same data, but by target region. Additionally, comparing the current season, the heat map in orange, to the previous season, the heat map in green, and a growth in percentage is given with an indicator icon. On the next report page, we have filtered on stone fruit for 2025. We're analyzing variety group, growth, and composition. The first chart is showing our current season versus previous season and a growth percentage now in blue. We can see apricots had the biggest growth in percentage, but our biggest volume contributors are actually red plums and yellow flesh. This Pareto chart shows that 80% of all volumes for current season is red plums, yellow flesh, and white flesh, and the other 20% is made up of the rest of the variety groups in this commodity. The last table on the screen is similar to the previous page, but this time by variety group. You can also flip this table to a chart using the buttons on the right. In this case, we're now looking at trend lines per variety group. Third report page shows the top chart, which shows current versus previous season growth with a detailed table on the right. The bottom chart also shows current versus previous season growth, But the key difference here is that it is a to-date season. So while the top graph shows the previous season in its entirety, here shows the season to date, previous season to date versus current season to date. Also with a detail table on the right. Both tables can expand to calendar year and week by clicking the expand or plus sign. You can also open this table in focus mode to make it bigger and see it a little bit better. Here we've opened it in focus mode. You can simply return to the report by clicking the back to report button. In our next report page, we're looking at berries for the 2026 season, and we're analyzing now by transport mode growth by region. Again, this table can be expanded to calendar year and week. And again, the top table shows current versus previous season, and the bottom table shows current season to date versus previous season to date. Lastly, we're looking at citrus for 2025 season, for example. Here we're analyzing the export region by date, the calendar year and week. Finally, the third dashboard, the carton summary, we will leave that to you to explore, leave a little bit of mystery. Our final user story is, as an industry stakeholder, I want to pull export data from AgriHub so that I can use it in my own dashboards and analytical models. Here we are looking at the data export dropdown with the summary export tab. To export the data, there are filters at the top and you need to select a season, commodity group, a commodity, and a week. What's great is that you can select multiple weeks, multiple commodities, multiple commodity groups, etc. So you don't have to have it filtered just down to one commodity and week. When you click, then you click the View Report button, and a pop-up will appear showing the number of rows rendering. You'll be presented with this table, which you can then export by selecting the Export button, and a drop-down appears, and here you can select Excel, PDF, CSV, or any of the other options available. Right, on to our next topic. We're going to be talking about the data integrity. So this is a little bit more of the back-end things, which is my favorite bit, but that is a perfect personal preference. So here is a landing page for our master data management. We use the Power BI plugin to manage the master data. This enables AgriHub to directly edit the database with immediacy in a user-friendly wrapping. We have a few different types of tables. Firstly, there's the lookup tables. This contains the clean master data. Then we also have mapping tables, which map original values that we get in the files and the data to cleaned up versions in the lookup master tables. Error tables to handle some edge cases on a pallet or container level, and then some access control. For an example, we can see the lookup farm table. So here's a list of all of the different farms that have been received, their codes, their friendly names, production region, etc. Specifically, a capability in this table that we designed in is that we're able to give different associations their preferred region names. So Portgrove, CGA, berries, Sati, everyone has a different preference. So we can actually give them those preferences, and this is then filtered down to the reports. Another example of a lookup table is the vessel table. Here you can see that the table actually references other tables with a dropdown, and instead of being able to use free text, which just protects from any mistypes. These dropdowns then reference other lookup master tables. So these are the separate tables that are then referenced by the vessel table. We have vessel type, transport mode, and ship line. Looking back at the vessel lookup table, we want to look at an example in particular. So we look at the Santa Teresa, for example. You can see that there's one line, it's a container vessel with an IMO number. This brings us to our mapping table. So here in our mapping table, in the original vessel column, you can see all the different varieties of Santa Teresa that we've received. These are all referring to the exact same vessel, but it comes in so many different ways. If we had to look at that in the data, the quantities would then be split in 23 different ways. But with our mapping table, that is brought together into a single entry. The Santa Teresa, no spaces, no other letters. Additionally, we can see in marine traffic that Santa Teresa is indeed a container ship. It has just completed a journey from Coega to Durban. Via our vessel status system in the back end that maps the vessels, we can see that the ship date from Coega was indeed the 14th of August, and it arrived in Durban on the 19th. In our data, we can see that it is actually due to leave Durban today for its next location, today being the 20th, if I am correct. Our next section, we're going to look at a little bit more data integrity, but this time a few of the backend processes. First one that I want to talk about is equivalent cartons. Standard carton weight is defined in our commodity master data. So using our lookup commodity table, there is a column for standard carton weights, which can be defined. Obviously, as it's on the lookup commodity table, it's defined on commodity level. And here we just want to look at an example of a couple of them. Just a note, standard carton weight is divided by 100 in the back end. So if you are looking at this and having a small panic, do not stress. Great, so equivalent cartons, this takes our pallet mass and divides it by our standard carton weight to get the equivalent cartons. So it's a short piece of code doing the division. And if we look at an example here over 3 different commodities, for each of these pallet codes, the pallet mass was the same, 500. They each have different standard carton weights, and so their equivalent cartons are then different. The next one that I want to look at is the pallet mass calculation. This is defined on a commodity and pack level. Here we look at the carton mass report, carton lower limit, and carton upper limit. These are all defined in the pack master data. The carton mass report, lower limit, and upper limit are also all divided by 100 in the back end. So looking at an example here, we can see that it's on a commodity level and then the actual pack as well. And it is unique in this table by pack and commodity. So limits, these limits are all multiplied by carton quantity. So here we have a few different cases. So if in our lookup table, our carton mass report is 0 or null, or there isn't an entry for it. If the upper and lower limits also don't have entries, then we simply use the pallet mass. If our pallet mass that we've received, if we do have a lower and upper limit, and our pallet mass received is between that lower and upper limit, then we use the pallet mass as is. However, if our pallet mass is outside of our lower and upper limits, then we use the average of the limits. So in an example here, we have 2 lines, one for apples, 1 pallet for apples, 1 for grapefruit. The carton mass is 0 for both of them, and in this pack, and we see that our lower limits, when multiplied by our carton quantity, our pallet mass is inside of that limit, so we simply use that pallet mass. Our next example, we can see with the lower limits multiplied by carton quantity, that our pallet mass is outside of that. It's too low. In this case, we want it to be reasonable, so we adjust the pallet mass and find an average of those limits, which is calculated here and then implemented into our pallet mass. Our next case here is when our carton mass report is not 0. So the associations have populated what an ideal carton mass for that pack and commodity would be. So if the lower and upper limits are 0, then we simply use pack mass. We're not sure what the bounds are. Pallet mass, sorry. Pallet mass, if it's between our lower and upper limits, then we use the pallet mass. It's within bounds. Happy with that. If it's outside of our lower and upper limits, then we are able to use this carton mass report. Since it's populated in this example, we're able to use it, and that is the ideal that the associations have defined it as. So 1 second. Sorry. So if we are looking at this example, here we've got lemons and oranges. You can see indeed that our carton mass report is populated for both of them. Our pallet mass here is within the bounds, so we use that as our pallet mass. Our next one, though, we see that our pallet mass is outside of the bounds. It's also too low. So here we use the carton mass also multiplied by the carton quantity, and that becomes our new pallet mass. So back-end things done. Thank you all for sitting through that. I appreciate it. I get very excited about it. And now onto the exciting bits, the new platform access. All current system users will automatically be granted access to the new platform. An email will be sent out as soon as access is granted. Access will then give you the 3 dashboards, 2 of which we saw today. The third is left for you to explore, as well as the export data, the summary exports. Here, there's a QR code that you are welcome to scan. At this moment, unless you are a beta user, it will simply send you to a page saying that you need to request access. And we want to make requesting access as easy as possible. So the access requesting process. Here, there's another QR code that will send you to an access request form. Please pull out your phones and grab it. Here in this request form, there's a couple of different things that we need, some information, the request detail, and some context. It's quite a simple form, won't take too long. In it, you do have 2 options, whether you want access to Reporting Hub and or a Snowflake share account. If you want Reporting Hub access, then after filling out the form, you will get an email giving you access confirmation and instructions, and then you are able to access the Reporting Hub. If you would also like access to the Snowflake share account, the next step after filling out the form is that will help you get set up on a Snowflake account and give you a high level of how Snowflake works and some user examples, and connect you to our Snowflake marketplace data so that you can bring it into your own account. Then it's simply connecting, and then you'll be able to utilize the summary export data. This is a piece of a screenshot of the listing on Snowflake Marketplace with the AgriHub summary export. There's a short description of what it can be, the time coverage, geographic coverage, and some example business needs. When you fill in the form, we will help you through this process to be able to get this data and get it into your system. Finally, if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact anyone in the project team. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I think let's open up the floor to some Q&As.
Michelle.
Hi, I just wanted to please just note that your commodity group isn't the commodity in your drop-downs on the Power BI platform or the reporting platform. If you just quickly go to the reporting platform, I'll show you. You're actually having a drop-down of the commodity group and not the commodity, but it's called commodity. Yeah, it's that. It's all of these are commodity, is not commodity, it's commodity group.
Sorry, I'm talking and I'm on mute.
So you can't see if it's that when you picked stone fruit, which is commodity group, it showed the variety group of yellow flesh. But is it a nectarine yellow flesh, or is it a apricot, or is it a peach yellow flesh? So you can't differentiate between the two.
So in the in the filter, there are these drop downs which aren't expanded in these screenshots. But if you drop down from Citrus, then it'll give you the different options in Citrus itself. So
Okay.
the commodities are underneath the commodity groups.
Got it.
So you will definitely be able to differentiate between them. We are aware that there are differences.
Okay.
Very good question, though. Thank you.
Okay. And then the other question I have is about the pallet mass.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm not sure, where do you get the carton mass and pallet mass data? Because I just want to make sure that if you create a new carton, I mean, how would you make sure that you've got the correct information on your side?
So
Because it's
the
very a
pallets,
export thing. It's you create your own pack types according per exporter, basically.
so we receive our data primarily from EDI files. From Yulene, correct me if I'm wrong here, from various exporters, I think, and various other sources, but they all send EDI files through to AgriHub. This contains data such as the actual carton quantity, and the actual carton quantity, that's what we use to then calculate some of the other things. Because there can be very wide variances, we can get very wide variances on the pallet mass. The files themselves can have a small typo sometimes. I don't like going into that too much, but it can happen. So that's why we've implemented the pallet mass adjustment system, so that if it is outside of these bounds, often what we see is something crazy outside of it, that and the limit would be 100 to 200, and then you get a value of 10,000. We want to protect against these very out of limit amounts. So that's why we've implemented the system.
So when you talk about carton mass, you talk about the net fruit mass of the carton, right? And when you look at pallet mass, it's a gross pallet mass of the pallet with the base included. Is that correct? Or how does
It's a net mass, Michelle. Literally, at the moment, Brian manages the net mass by hand. And this step is literally just to decrease the amount of manual work that he has to do on a daily basis. So it only catches it if it goes far outside of those set limits, and we'll monitor those limits and just make sure that we conform on a normal distribution to those limits and not go too far over or under. Otherwise, we will over-report or under-report, and it's a safeguard.
Where do you get the pallet mass?
It's on the file.
But that's a gross pallet mass, right?
It's a net pallet mass, as far as I understand.
But do you use the normal EDI files, because then it's a gross pallet mass?
So that net mass, or the mass, is defined as a net, if I understand it correctly. It's what AgriHub's always been using to determine standard cartons. No,
I'm talking about the pallet mass, right? Where do you get the pallet mass? If you get that in EDI.
Can I maybe make a suggestion? I'm not sure if there are any other questions, but maybe Michelle, we can
of course,
jump on a detailed call right after this, and just make sure we can answer all your questions.
Yeah, I can talk to Brian as well. You know exactly where it's coming from. Yeah, no worries.
I'm sure. Yeah, as far as I understand, we are using the EDI files, and that it is defined as a net mass, but happy to check that and give you feedback. Otherwise, Brian will easily be able to give you feedback. Cool. Any other questions? Jacques.
Hi there. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I'd just like to ask a question in terms of your ETL and data pipelines. I'm in a similar environment using Snowflake, and I always struggle determining between, let's say, your daily extracts that take a daily dump and append, and your more real-time type of dumps that you need and data sources that you need on a more real-time basis, I would expect. I just wanted to know how you handle that, because as we know with Snowflake, it's all about computing time, to keep that computing time low. In our case, we found dynamic tables and other workarounds to help just manage that big data. And in my case, I'm talking about telemetry data. So I just wanted to check on your side how you manage that aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, another great question. You guys are on fire. So we use an ETL tool called Matillion to help manage our ETL. This connects directly into Snowflake. We are loading data on a daily basis, so we aren't worrying too much about immediately real time to the second, but we are loading the data on a daily basis. We then use delta loads as well, so that we're not consistently reloading the entire table, but rather only a small period where there are actual updates and changes. So that's mainly how we are managing it.
Okay, thank you. And then historic data, we like to build up historic data so that you can also go back in time and have a look at maybe a week back, a month back, or further back. So how do you manage your historic data? Thank you.
So our historic data, we loaded from AgriHub. I think if you can remember in one of Yuline's slides, there was, with the Snowflake loading, there was a very small start and then a huge spike. That was where the historic data was all getting loaded, I think in about November, December last year. So we have historic data going back definitely from 2022 onwards, because that is what our reports are showing. I'm not sure how it is further back from that, but we had a spike where we loaded our full historical data so that we have that data, because we did want to be able to do current versus previous season reporting for a few different seasons. Yeah. So yeah, we loaded it and we've got it in fixed tables, and then those tables only get updated with latest delta information, and the historic data remains unchanged.
And I think going forward, we would retain all of the data that is there. So there's no plan to archive or delete any historic data. I think we feel the storage cost model of Snowflake is so effective that it's worth keeping the full history.
Definitely.
That's great. Thank you very much. And also for audit trails, that's important. But yes, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Great.
Any further questions? Camille has shared our email addresses. Please do feel free to reach out to us on these email addresses. I would then like to draw us to just the thank you very muches. Right. So first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to you, the industry, for funding this project and for supporting AgriHub through all the years that we've been doing what we've been doing. And then we'd like to thank the data providers for making this possible and for trusting AgriHub with the data. Creating seamless flows of data into the platform is fantastic. Thank you. I'd like to thank the alpha and beta users who've been active and involved in the process and have given really good feedback to date. I'd like to thank our partners, the Datalab team, for your support, your determination, and your expertise. I would like to thank Brian for carrying the weight of 2 platforms and often explaining things many times over to us. And then also would like to thank the AgriHub Board of Directors